this is a south-facing slope and this is a north-facing slope. So this is xeric and this is mesic. Okay?
Oh, and do I have that here?
Yes.
Okay.
The maritime is like Torrey pines. Yeah. Then there's also manzanita, scrub oak, and montane. So this is cool. If you look at this book, it shows us a lot of the different kinds of chaparral. So this one's a scrub oak chaparral. Can you see? And this one is red shanks chaparral. I think that one's really pretty. Do you see it?
Yes, and will I see these different types of chaparral right here in our vicinity?
Some are here, some are more in Northern California.
Okay.
California has, like pretty much there's chaparral throughout the entire state of California, and San Diego has the most. So we're special.
Lucky, yeah.
Yeah. This is chamise, which is one of the most common kinds of chaparral.
It's pretty.
Yeah.
It's red, orange.
Well, this is, okay, see, chamise is an interesting thing to talk about concerning fire because it is actually an example of a plant that is a huge fire hazard. Because it likes to grow on south-facing slopes. It prefers south-facing slopes, so it's exposed to a lot of sun and heat. So during the fire season from May through January, it's getting an incredible amount of heat. And it has little tiny needle-like leaves that are designed to hold water and protect it in times of drought. But when there is drought, like in fire season, they all turn brown like that and they're dead. And that is like extremely fire hazardous.
Very flammable.
Yeah, so the combination of being on a south-facing slope and having needle-like leaves that dry up when there's no water make it like fuel.
It's like a dried out Christmas tree.
Yeah, it is like that.
Oh,
It totally is like that. So here's other kinds in there if you guys want to look at the book. But actually that brings me to the next page where chaparral is, there's other terms. What other terms have you heard of for chaparral?
Sage scrub?
Okay, see, that's because you're cool. But what about you?
Was I correct thinking that it's a tumbleweed?
Yeah, see, okay, that's actually a good example because tumbleweeds are like really dry and basically you throw that in the fire and it's fuel, you know? And so that is how chaparral is seen. Like some other terms for it are brush and fuel even.
Fuel?
Yeah, some people will call chaparral fuel, especially like firefighters, and a lot of like the fire regulation concerns only native plants and doesn't talk about like landscape plants at all or the home at all. It's all like clear out the chaparral, you know? But actually, like I was saying before, anything will burn in the right circumstances. It's not just, there's not just fuel-driven fires. Half the fire season, let's see, if you look at the next page actually, really quick, the next page. Half the fire season is fuel-driven and half is wind-driven. And so you can go back to the other page and you can see how the normal fire triangle is heat, fuel, and oxygen. You deprive a fire of one of those things and it will not burn. So firefighters usually concentrate on like taking out the fuel portion because that's what they can control, not the heat and the oxygen. And so that's why there's that misconception. But if you look at the new improved fire square, it shows you how there's more involved. And then firefighters created this fire behavior triangle at the bottom that shows you even more factors that play into what happens in a fire and why a fire might burn and how bad is it.
What are those factors?
Well, type of vegetation, topography, wind and humidity. Santa Anas are one of the main causes of fires. It's like all the catastrophic fires are because of Santa Anas, because they suck out all the moisture and they're really fast winds. So like we actually like blame the fire department a lot for catastrophic fires and people die and lots of homes are lost. But if you put like all the fire departments from surrounding area and pull all their resources together, there's still no match for like a wildfire caused by Santa Ana winds, you know, like at the peak of fire season. And so the real solution to fire preparedness is actually like each individual being prepared. And in Australia, where they have the same kind of climate as us, like all the homeowners are also automatically like volunteer fire personnel, and they're all trained in how to protect their homes. And instead of evacuating everybody, like how it's mandatory here to evacuate people, over there they stay at their homes, and everybody like in the family helps to protect their home and dispel the fire.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And that would include like spraying it with water?
Yeah, so we'll get to some of the fire safety methods
Okay.
later on. But yeah, roof misters are one of them. Actually, using native plants as the first line of defense and like properly maintaining the land vegetation surrounding your house can be a measure of fire prevention. So some plants like chamise and like ceanothus that maintain a lot of dead stuff on their, I wanted to say on their persons because I think of plants as people, but that just hold on to a lot of dead stuff and have like thorns and tiny leaves. Those plants are not very good to have.
Even though they're native, it's best not. It's best to
I mean,
stay away
it's
from
best to keep them away, like from the immediate area by your house.
Oh, okay.
But, the main fire culprits are humans. How I was saying earlier that we all think that chaparral is totally like adapted to fires, and it needs the fire. It doesn't need the fire. Fire burns a lot more frequently now than it did before. It would be like 30 years or like 100 years between fires from natural lightning strikes. And now it's like every year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, and actually after that is non-native weedy grasses are the next biggest fire threat and culprit. Because they are pretty much fuel. Like they're designed to be fuel. You know, when they die, they're all dry, and they're perfect with their fine texture and their like crispness to be fuel, and how widespread they are. And they're all close together. You know, it's just like whoosh, the fire will just sweep over them and go to the houses and burn the houses too. Because houses are actually good fuel too when they're wood houses. So anybody will tell you that development is like a threat to native plants, but it's not just that wherever you develop, you displace the native plants and destroy them there. It's that wherever there's a human presence, there's more likely to be fires. So in an area that's developed, there's more humans. And so when there's more fires, the chaparral that burns and isn't as adapted to recovering right away before the next fire, it diminishes and diminishes and diminishes, and non-native weedy grasses sprout up there and totally take over, and that's called type conversion, when one type of plant community is replaced by another. And so that kind of type conversion of of native plants to non-native plants is a huge reason we have fires. And so that's really counterintuitive to some of the regulation that we have now, which is like lot clearing. So do you know what that is?
Oh yeah, so you're clearing the chaparral so there's less fuel to burn, but then it gets replaced by non-native stuff?
Yeah.
And then it's just worse fuel?
Yes.
Oh wow, that's really bad.
Yeah, it is really bad.
Isn't that what they're into these days, with lot clearing?
Yes.
Clearing out chaparral?
Yeah.
Don't people buy goats now to eat up all the chaparral?
Yeah, people do that.
Yeah.
And there's no reason for it. There's no research that says that is a good method.
What was that method again? Buying a goat?
Lot clearing.
But
getting rid of all the chaparral around your house because it's fuel.
But did
So
we
people-
say something about
Yeah.
they buy goats?
Yeah, they said buy goats, so they'll go out and eat all the chaparral.
Oh, oh,
They're
interesting.
very good at that.
They'll eat anything.
They'll eat anything.
Yeah. So what happens is you open up the canopy when you clear out the chaparral, because if you look at a healthy growth of chaparral, it's like all clustered together, and there's like no space to walk. It's all covered. The ground is completely covered. But so what they would do in lot clearing is like clear out all the chaparral and leave like specimen shrubs 20 and 30 feet apart, 20 to 30 feet apart. But that is actually really dangerous because it's replaced by the non-native weedy grasses that are really good fuel. So what you should do is just kind of take out plants that are not fire safe, but keep the canopy closed and just basically prune them in the right way to keep the fire hazard down. So that actually, if you look at the page that says fire safe plant criteria, that will tell you what the plant should have and what it shouldn't have. And some of the reasons why we hang on to these wrong methods for fire safety, like lot clearing, is because it's basically just to appease the wrath of the public whenever there is a fire, which happens so often that there's no time for people to like wisen up and change the
Is
methods.
building fire roads the same as lot clearing?
I don't think so. Building fire roads is something that firefighters do,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, and they do that
So when
in
it's burning,
preparation.
it doesn't, they try to block it when it's on a burning path.
Yeah, they do it so they can access critical areas and put out the fire. And those methods of like having fire safety zones for firefighters and fire roads are good for fighting fuel-driven fires, but not wind-driven fires.
Oh.
Yeah.
So is there just no hope for wind-driven fire?
No, there is, but it's preparation from people. So if we train ourselves in these methods and employ fire safety methods in our house, then we can protect ourselves. Actually, in communities where like environmental authorities had like mass training sessions for entire home communities, those communities like didn't burn when there was fires. Like without exception, all the homes were saved when all the surrounding homes would be burned. So you can see like how effective.
Why would they not burn?
Because the people were trained by environmental like agencies and environmental authorities.
And they grew stuff around their homes that was less flammable.
Well, some of the methods for, okay, look at landscape maintenance schedule for fire safety. This is basically like the right way to do it. So 0 to 30 feet is your safety zone, and you want to do year-round maintenance on that. So that means like you really want to regulate that area and have a lot of control over it. So you want to dictate which shrubs are there, which plants are there, which ones aren't. And you do that by consulting the fire safe plant criteria and choosing plants based on that.
Yeah.
You don't want any plants in your 0 to 30 foot safety zone to have any of the qualities that where it says the plant should not have.
What if your home borders that, and you don't really own that property, but you have this huge stretch of property right next to your
Well,
land?
you have to contact, authorities and have them
Or have them do that for you?
have them talk to whoever does own the property, or just hire somebody to go out. They'll do that. They'll hire people to go out and fix the unfire safe property, and then they like charge the property owner later, like through taxes or something. Yeah, but the problem with that is they're using the wrong criteria a lot of times, and we'll just hire people to come clear the lot, and then that makes it worse. So it's, individual fire preparation is like really important, but it has to come also from fire authorities. So
It's not just misting it and keeping it wet. It has to do with the type of plant that is
yeah,
growing there.
so 30 to 100 feet, you can get away with seasonal maintenance. And usually they say clear 100 feet, and then after major fires, they always change it to clear to 200 feet. So, and greenbelt extension beyond 100 feet, annual inspections and periodic maintenance. So beyond 100 feet, you just want to have like annual maintenance of that. Yeah. But
Did you
yeah.
say any of this is mandatory right now?
No, it's not.
But in some countries like Australia, it is?
Yeah. So not all, how I was saying before, not all plants are fuel. Not all chaparral is fuel. And actually, like a good example is laurel sumac that you can see on the root depth chart. Laurel sumac is an example of a highly volatile plant. That means it has a lot of oil in it. It's highly resinous. And so one huge myth about fire and chaparral is that chaparral is full of highly resinous plants, so it's just natural fuel. But, I mean, laurel sumac, for example, does have a lot of oil, but it also has a lot of moisture retention, like one of the highest moisture retentions of any plant. So it's actually one of the safest plants to have around your home. And it can actually dispel fire. And so I wanted to show you a picture.
Okay.
Okay. Here's a picture. Oh, where'd it go? Going back to the wrong page. Oh, here it is. So, see all this chaparral, see all this burned stuff here? And then there's all this chaparral here, and then the house is burned. So the fire totally went over the chaparral and burned the house. It totally skipped it because it had a high water content.
Yeah.
And so if the house hadn't been made of flammable materials, it would have been okay.
Yeah.
And so some of the next page shows some tips for your house. You'll like this, Rich, the difference in the architecture.
Oh, hey.
Yeah, the left is fire-safe architecture, and you can see it like follows the slope of the cliff. I mean, of the
land?
Yeah, of the land. And the other house that's not fire-safe, it's made of wood, and it does not. It's not like following the slope of the land. And so you actually can have more freedom with the landscaping on your slope if you have fire-safe architecture. So you can see on the difference in the pictures, the one on the right, like it's still gonna burn, and it has like all this land cleared on the slope, and there's just chaparral at the bottom, but it's still not effective. And then the one on the left, there's like good fire-safe landscaping and good architecture, and that's the ideal. And some of the fire safety features for your homes. Well, first, good materials to make your home out of are stucco, metal siding, brick, concrete block, and rock. So you see a lot of wooden homes here for some reason. And I know there's a lot of brick homes in like the Midwest, but we should have more brick homes here because it's more fire safe. And I think this is a really interesting part, the fire safety features for homes. So these are the main things that you should do to have a fire safe home. Reduce the overhangs or boxed eaves in your home. And move under eave vents from near the roof line. Oh, put them near the roof line instead of near the wall. Because what happens is like charred, sparked pieces of the fire will fly, like embers. Embers will fly and get stuck in those places.
Oh,
so you want to put them in better places. Yeah. Exterior attic and underfloor vents are another place where embers get caught and set your home on fire. And they should not face fire corridors. So you can use, there's a picture a couple pages ago that shows like fire chimneys. You were looking at it. And like homes that are too close to like surrounding vegetation and too close together, like those are fire risks. So you would want to just take note of where your house is and note where the fire corridors would be. Those are some of the main ones. And the vents shouldn't face the fire corridors because they'll get embers inside them. And they should be covered with wire screen that's pretty small, a pretty tiny mesh screen. Double pane windows or tempered safety glass windows, depending on what the windows are for. Like if it's a sliding glass door, you don't want it to be double pane necessarily. Like it could be a tempered safety glass. Or if it's a picture window, you would want it to be tempered safety glass, but all the other ones should be double paned. And let's see, windows that do face fire winds can be protected by non-flammable shutters. If you lived in tornado country, you would have the proper fittings for your home in case of a tornado, so it makes sense that we would have it here. Yeah, you have lots of, you know what to do, and here we don't know what to do. We're just like, help me. So rooftop sprinklers or misters that I mentioned earlier, those, I read a story in here, there's some really good like anecdotes. And one of the really good ones where like their house was the only one that survived in the community, and it was because they had misters, under-eave misters on their roof. Yeah, and it soaked their deck and like protected their home.
Oh, okay.
It was the only one that stood after a fire. So a stone wall can be a really good barrier against a fire. And a swimming pool even, or a non-wood deck is good.
Swimming pool? Sounds like a nice fire prevention.
Yeah. So maybe like we can't use this stuff, but it's good to know in case like, you know, our friends use it.
You mean
you have a wood deck.
When you say we can't use it, you're just referring to your own personal situation right now, but it's something for you to always keep in mind when you start making plans.
So that's pretty much it.
Thank you.
Wow, you really did a lot of research. Jeez, I'm kind of mind blown. You know so much about all this stuff.
Did you learn?
I learned a lot. I felt like I just went to a science class.
I really liked learning about the chaparral. Like I didn't know there was so many different kinds. And it made me really happy to know that there's so many different kinds. And I really like the chart on the first page that shows you like where you would find different kinds of chaparral.
Right, and it kind of shows you why the desert is there.
Yeah.
You know, with the wind coming through.
That's called a rain shadow.
Right. Yeah, that's really good. Actually, what about this thing? You never told us about this.
Oh, okay. That one is what I was talking about at the end, the natural chimneys.
Yeah.
We actually could probably notice a lot of those here, you know, because we have a lot of cliffs.
Yeah.
So cliffs that overlook like arroyos where it's just full of chaparral. With those natural ridges in the cliff leading up to the homes, those are fire chimneys, and if the homes are like at the top of the groove in the chimney, then they're really subject to fires because it's like a wind tunnel effect.
Oh, okay. What about, but then are there many developments within canyons, or are canyons kind of held off on development in San Diego?
That's what originally was going on, but now because they're running out of places to develop, development is happening there. And in other places that are really, really dangerous to live in when fires happen, because it's not really like if, it's when fires happen.
Yeah.
And so that's totally ignored, and there's a huge culture of denial in terms of fire.
Okay.
And so, I mean, I was saying like why a lot of fire myths exist is because of wanting to just appease the wrath of the public when they're angry after a fire.
Yeah.
But it's also for developers, so that developers can still develop on places that are dangerous for fires.
Actually, it gives them perfect excuse just to go out there and level chaparral.
Yeah, exactly.
Grounds of chaparral, right? And then they just buy the land and develop it.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
And the other one shows like how it's really dangerous to develop in this way. And that on narrow ridges, and homes that aren't set back far enough,
right,
because they can't be because it's a narrow ridge, they're really vulnerable to fire.
right.
And the homes are so close together, and they're made of like flammable materials, you know, especially wooden shingles are apparently the single most important factor determining whether a home is destroyed or not.
We have a lot of homes on narrow ridges here in California.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Right on the 76 and the 5, they have that new development, all those houses lined up.
Wow.
That's all on a ridge.
Yeah, that's just a recipe for disaster, isn't it? All the houses should be built of adobe block and Spanish tile roofs.
Wouldn't that be great?
That'd be amazing, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Be like old Spanish tiles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And wouldn't it feel better to not have to be in denial about fire because we're like helpless, you know, but to know what to do if a fire does happen, because it's always like, okay, it's not going to happen. Like, my home's not going to burn, you know. Like, the fire can't get too close to me, but like every time when I drive on the 76 and there's a fire off the 76, you can see it, and you can see like the smoke rising up from it, and like I'll be driving home from somewhere and I'll see like the smoke rising towards where I'm going, and I'm like, oh my gosh, is it by my home or is it not? And I remember when I was in college at Pepperdine, my roommate was like, she was so broken up and so in tears because like all her friends' homes were burning down.
That was in 2000
Yeah,
and...
in 2003.
2003.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I would feel better like knowing how to prepare myself.
Thank you, Genevieve.
You're welcome.
Good work.
Nice job.
What did you learn?
I learned everything that's in this package.
Do you want to watch the video?
Good.
Okay, let's watch the video.